All right, Moto Maddox here. If this is your first time visiting the channel, you probably were searching for information about coolant systems for Jaguar or Land Rover, Range Rover products, and more specifically, the infamous Y pipe and crossover pipe. So yeah, if you've come to this channel because you got some pretty confusing news or a pretty scary repair bill, welcome to the channel. Try to help you out here. For all the folks that are kind of frequent visitors to Moto Maddox, don't be alarmed. We're still going to have lots of motorcycle content. You can see in the background, there's a couple bikes behind me. But I do want to add a few videos just talking about automotive repairs. So going to start an automotive repair series. So this series is not going to be for, entertainment unless you just like watching repair videos. It's essentially to give back to the general automotive community. I always frequent forums and user groups and YouTube videos whenever I have a repair that I'm unfamiliar with. And so, the internet is just a great resource to kind of get information. Even when I was doing this repair, shout out to Jaguar forums. There were a few individuals that took on this repair and outlined all the different parts and different pieces that they used for those products, which was really useful. I do have some video footage of me tackling this job, and so I'm gonna post that here, probably break it into two parts. One, just kind of talking about the overall job and the tear apart and tear down. And then a second part kind of showing the installation of all the new pieces. But for those who don't know what a Y pipe looks like, this is the Y pipe. This is that infamous part that fails a lot on Jaguar Land Rover products. It's not a real expensive part, but to get to it is very difficult. You have to essentially pull the whole front air intake system off, the intake manifold, and to get to it, it's pretty challenging. What really fails are a lot of the plastic components. So on the bottom of this, mine failed where it actually goes into the top of the engine block. And so this is a piece that needs to get repaired pretty often if you just kind of search the forums. It's kind of funny, you may not be able to see this, but there's a Ford Motor Company stamp on this. So that was an interesting time where Ford owned Jaguar Land Rover. So one of the cool things is that if you can get the Ford parts, it's could be pretty inexpensive for the part itself, but still the labor for this job is pretty intense. It's easily $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 job that you can get quoted even by an independent mechanic. And so, if you have a pretty older vehicle, I mean, you're getting to the point where you can be mechanically totaled with a job like this if you don't know what you're doing. So folks that have, some tools, a little bit of patience, some mechanical know-how, some videos like this may help you to tackle this job. So the Y pipe gets its name because of the shape of the pipe. It actually goes down. This part goes down into the engine system, and you have some coolant pipes on the front of it that flow toward the water pump and some of the other coolant components. This one is referred to as a crossover pipe, and this essentially attaches to the back of the engine block, which is very difficult to get to because it's like right by the firewall and right at the back of the engine block. You can see it has a couple holes where it's bolted in, but it also has this sensor, so there's an electrical connection, as well as a couple hoses, coolant and vacuum hoses that connect to this. This one is the most painful to get to. It's pretty tedious. You got to have the right tools. I found myself just kind of pretty much climbed all the way into the engine bay to get to this. So yeah, hopefully this video will be useful to you if you want to tackle it yourself, or even if you're paying a mechanic to do it, at least you'll have some idea of what is being done for the money you're spending. These are some things that you will not be able to see. There will be symptoms. Normally, if you're adding water or coolant to your overflow or expansion tank, is an indication that there is a leak. On some vehicles, they have a pretty significant, it's like a plastic tray or pan underneath the engine block. And, you know, if you're just dripping coolant continuously, you may not even see any in your where you park, you know, in your parking spot, in your garage, on your driveway, because it'll collect that coolant in this little drip tray undercarriage pan. But if you do have a catastrophic failure on the highway, if you overheat and are not able to immediately pull over, you can do some pretty bad damage to your engine. And so, you know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for this repair is expensive alone, but it pales in comparison to what you'll be quoted if you have to put a new motor in one of these vehicles. All right, so stick around, I'll show you exactly what it takes to replace these components, and just my way of giving back to the ecosystem. Hopefully this helps somebody out. All right, so we have the intake manifold out of the way, and so you can really get a clear look at a couple of these problem components. Let me see if I can get here at a good angle. So the first thing that's problematic is this wire pipe. You can see that it's a lot of coolant that's pooling down in the bottom of the V. So we're gonna pull this wire pipe out. So you can see it extends down from the front of the engine, and then also all the way in the back. Let's see if we can't get this camera in here. You can see it a little bit. You can see there's a crossover pipe that goes from this side of the engine to the other side. And you can see it's actually kind of split right there. You can see it's starting to leak. So these are the two major things that kind of fail on these 5.0 liter engines. And you can see the positioning of them is just real problematic. You have to rip out so much stuff to get to them. This will be the second time I've had this done. I had both of those pipes replaced at about 75,000 miles. This car almost has a $150, $160, so they seem to fail. Seems like every 5-6 years. One of the things I did do was get a metal aluminum crossover pipe for that rear. I don't plan on opening this up again, but just for peace of mind, I couldn't really find a suitable aluminum replacement for the front, so we're gonna just go back with plastic again. But let's see, this is the culprit. Yeah, it just seems like it started leaking at the seams, possibly, or at these mating surfaces where this kind of connects. It looks like it left, yeah, this looks like it broke off, like the plastic, the bottom plastic components of this just look like they are broken off and left down in the engine, so I have to be careful to pull those out. That looks like where this fails, mostly right here at these connecting points. This is pretty horrible kind of design, if you ask me. I mean, something that's so difficult to get to, I would think they would spend a little bit more engineering this part. Such a vulnerable piece. All right, so we have a Jaguar XF. You can see this is the 5.0 liter engine here. One of the things you may notice is that the coolant is low in this expansion tank. And so these Jaguars, and this engine is actually used in a bunch of Land Rovers as well, has a notorious kind of problem with coolant leaks. You don't see anything kind of obvious from the top, but you will notice, like if you have to keep filling up the coolant reservoir, you may have a slow leak. One of the things is that this the plastic pan at the bottom of the engine, it'll kind of catch any small coolant leaks, so you won't even really notice it, like a puddle on the floor. But some symptoms are you'll maybe smell coolant. But the thing is that there is a crossover pipe in the rear of the engine, but it's underneath this manifold. There's also another pipe at the front. The water pump is also kind of underneath this manifold, so that's what makes this a bit difficult. So what I'm going to do is disconnect all of this at the front of the engine. The manifold is kind of a pain. You can see a fuel line here. One of the things you'll notice is that some of these bolts have a little bit of what are called warranty sealant. So I had this done about 80,000 miles ago. You can see all the little indications that different parts were changed. And so what I had that done, and most of it was covered under warranty the last time, but now I'm well past the warranty. So I'm going to tackle this job myself. Yeah, so this is the plastic pan that's underneath the car. I pulled this a while ago because this will just capture so much like leaking coolant that you'll never see it on the ground, you know. And as you drive, it'll evaporate or kind of spray and blow toward the back of the engine or the back of the vehicle. So if you don't remove this, you could be driving around for a while and it could be leaking coolant and you wouldn't even know it. But you can see I pulled this from the bottom of the car just to try to diagnose the leak. You know, I was trying to look underneath the vehicle to see if I saw any visible spots where it was leaking, but the leaks are kind of concentrated in that valley of the V of the engine. So once I pull that intake manifold off, I'm expecting to see maybe a collection of coolant. Hopefully it'll be obvious what's leaking, but in any event, I ordered a couple of the usual suspects, you know, components that tend to fail on those vehicles. And that's that rear crossover pipe, the Y pipe, and the water pump. You know, while you're going through all the hassle of removing all those components, you might as well replace those plastic pieces. Yeah, so now I'm just taking a closer look at what exactly do I need to remove here. So even starting at the front, you know, all of this needs to come off. What I'm worried about is some of these vacuum hoses. You can see they're kind of running all across the engine, some of these pieces that I know I'm gonna have to move to get this intake manifold out, and they become brittle over time, so I certainly expect to break something in the process and have to order some extra pieces. So what I'm going to do is take a photo so I can remember. This is actually a new connector here I had to order because when I replaced the strut on the front of this vehicle. You got to remove the expansion tank to get to that suspension component, and just kind of moving this around, you know, this thing just crumbled. So yeah, just taking a look and kind of trying to get mentally prepared. And so that crossover pipe that I was talking about in the back, it's, you can't really see it, but it's right in this, underneath that, and you can't even access it without removing this manifold. So just gonna be patient, plan to have the car out of commission for a little bit, but this is certainly something you want to get done, because you know, if you're on the highway and this thing has a catastrophic failure, it doesn't take long before you can overheat your engine and pretty much destroy your engine. So all right, let's get to it. Yeah, so this piece I actually just replaced not that long ago, and it is just such a delicate piece. This little clip here, kind of hard to see, but that has to get pulled out before you can pop it out from the hose. It's like these little small details with these vacuum lines. So that was kind of the first one, and now it looks like only a dozen more to go. Wow, so that just literally sheared off of the connector piece there. Interesting. These pieces are so brittle. So what I'm trying to do is just take this entire intake piece off in one big piece. That's what I may be able to do. One of the other things I'll do is clean this up while I have it off of the vehicle. Yes, that was one of the things I was trying to accomplish, is just pull this entire piece off without having to disconnect each individual part. Kind of help me when it's time to put things back together. So that gives us a lot more access to, oh, and look, you can see some moisture right here, the water pump. I'll also replace these air filters. I already ordered those. Just kind of double checking. See if there's anything else that we should do while we have this stuff off. Next thing is to take the throttle body off. You can see it's just like packaged in here really tight. Then the next thing we're gonna have to do is, you see there's a fuel line going directly across the intake manifold. Just kind of a pain the way this is set up. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so I disconnected the upper radiator hose from this junction here. Spilled a little bit of coolant, but you can see this hose is pretty full. I don't want to disconnect it from the radiator, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my Pneumatic liquid fluid extractor to pull out that coolant. So it's one of the nice things of having some of these tools at your disposal. So I'm just taking a look at the water pump. So this is gonna have to come out. And I did order a new serpentine belt. So once I pull off some more stuff from the top, I have a little bit more room. I'll take a picture to make sure I'm putting the serpentine belt back in correctly, but this belt will have to come off. The water pump here is gonna have to come out, but we'll be able to see a bit more once this throttle body and the intake manifold comes off. It'll be a better view. What I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna get my shop vac, because this is so much dust, you know, around this engine. I want to pull all that. We'll try to blow out or suck some of that dust out before I take this intake off. I don't want all those particles going into the engine, so we'll do that. Yeah, so had to loosen up a couple of these vacuum lines. Didn't want to remove them entirely. I just need to get them out the way so I can crack open this fuel line. Let's see if I can. So it's pressurized. I did not have a lot of torque to it, so that line is loose. Let's correct this one over here. Alright, fuel line is off. Have to disconnect this. Then I think we will be in the clear. Check to make sure I can pull off that whole intake manifold with the throttle body still connected. Making some good progress. This one, yeah, goodness gracious, this looks pretty flimsy. I'm gonna see if I can get away with not disconnecting this for right now. All right, I think I have enough clearance and everything disconnected that needs to be disconnected before trying to remove the intake manifold. So there's these 4 bolts that need to be removed. 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side. Then I'll try to loosen it up, make sure it's not still connected to anything. Then we should be able to pull this manifold off. So, all right, let's get to it. So I thought it was just 4, but it's actually 5. There's of course another bolt all the way back here. You can see it's pretty dirty. So yeah, I just have to be careful. And like it's like right in the way. All right, you know it's getting to be crunch time when you have to pull out the little swivel extensions. So let's see if I can't get to that. Here we go, I got it. So in this back here, it looks like there's a harness possibly that's connected to the back of the manifold, this little plastic piece. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to feel back there, see if there's something that's obvious that I can disconnect. I just want to be pretty gentle I'm quite sure it's something connected to the back, and I do not want to crack, you know, holes or anything unnecessarily. So let me take a little break, relax for a bit, then come back and pull this manifold out. So before I couldn't access these little bolts right here because of that plastic piece. So now I have a lot more room. So I'm moving these T30 bolts, keeping my manifold kind of connected to like this little harness, wire harness cover back here. Alright, so that is off. Yeah, and you can see that immediately loosened from the back of the intake. Right now that I have those two screws loosened up, let's see if we have. Yeah, you can see it starts pulling out already. So I'm just go around on the back. Make sure I've disconnected everything. Looks like they put some electrical tape around the connector. Kind of keep it. Let's see. So, shit. Yeah, so my engine is wide open. You can see I'm pulling off this electrical tape. So before I continue, I need to stuff some rags. Cover up my intake ports. Let me go ahead and remove these gaskets so I can account for everything. So that is 3. This one still looks like it's connected. 4. All right, let me cover the intake ports. Just so you kind of see, it's a little difficult, but there's an electrical connector there that has a tape wrapped around the connector, so kind of a good idea, but if you don't know that's what's going on, I'm trying to disconnect and find a little tab. Something wasn't quite right. There we go. So I'll tape. So it looks like they may have broken the tab. And that's why tape is on this. this side, there's still, if you can see in the back, some hoses that are connected. This little plastic piece here, I'm trying to be careful with. And this one here. So there's a couple hoses, but at least I can see them. And yeah, I've really needed to remove that little back piece. It's gonna make my life easier, get a lot more room to work with. So try to disconnect those hoses on the back, and then this intake manifold should be free, and then we should be able to see what's going on. As far as those two crossover pipes and wide pipes, coolant pipes that are prone to leak. So I have a connection in the back here that is not coming off well. This hose right here, this little piece was connected, and what I think has happened is there might have been like some compression fixture for this vacuum hose, and it's, you see it's broken, so it's still in there. So either way, that is a bit problematic because there are going to be some plastic bits in. But what I'm gonna try to do is just pull this out without breaking the hose, because I don't want to have to open this up and fool around with resealing any of that stuff. While we're here, I think, yeah, let's go ahead and look at. Yeah, you can see it's coolant down this valley. So that wire pipe looks like it has failed, or it's starting to fail. And also there's a little crossover pipe in the back that it looks like it's cracked as well. So those are the two things we're going to replace. But I'm not fully disconnected. You can see there's still this vacuum line there, and the little plastic piece is broken off. That red piece probably needs to come out fully. I don't want to push it in because then I'll have to retrieve it somehow. So I have to figure out how to disconnect this so I can kind of work on it outside of this engine bay. So we've gotten most of what we need disconnected. It's a real good view of kind of what the problems are here. So let's see. So this wire pipe is leaking, so we're going to replace this plastic piece. And while we're here, see in the back, move some of this out the way. There is this plastic piece here also fails, and it looks like it has failed in this corner. It's kind of hard to see, but looks like there's a crack here. So I don't know why Jaguar didn't put some aluminum metal components there. And while we're in here, we're going to replace this water pump as well. Alright, so we have the intake manifold out of the way, and so you can really get a clear look at a couple of these problem components. Let me see if I can get here at a good angle. So the first thing that's problematic is this wire pipe. You can see that it's a lot of coolant is pooling down in the bottom of the V. So we're gonna pull this wire pipe out. So you can see it extends down from the front of the engine, and then also all the way in the back. Let's see if we can't get this camera in here. You can see it a little bit. You can see there's a crossover pipe that goes from this side of the engine to the other side. And you can see it's actually kind of split right there. You can see it's starting to leak. So these are the two major things that kind of fail on these 5.0 liter engines. And you can see the positioning of them is just real problematic. You have to rip out so much stuff to get to them. This will be the second time I've had this done. I had both of those pipes replaced at about 75,000 miles. This car almost has a $150, $160, so they seem to fail. Seems like every 5-6 years. One of the things I did do was get a metal aluminum crossover pipe for that rear. I don't plan on opening this up again, but just for peace of mind, I couldn't really find a suitable aluminum replacement for the front, so we're gonna just go back with plastic again. But and you know, while you have all this stuff out, might as well replace this water pump. So we're gonna pull this water pump out, but first I want to get this wire pipe out. Right. Yeah, well, it's just a lot of crud sitting down at the bottom of the engine. I mean, well, it's really at the top of this bank. And so these look like some of the plastic, I guess you would call it maybe the O-rings. I'll have to get something soft to pull those out, but do that really carefully. I see lots of dust and kind of sediment here, so I'm gonna try to clean a lot of this up before we install all this stuff. I do not really want to remove this oil cooler. This here, I'm gonna assume that that's all good, but I do want to clean this up. But yeah, might as well pull this water pump out while we have so much room, because it has to go. But let's see, this is the culprit. Yeah, it just seems like it started leaking at the seams, possibly, or at these mating surfaces where this kind of connects. It looks like it left, yeah, this looks like it broke off, like the plastic, the bottom plastic components of this just look like they are broken off and left down in the engine, so I have to be careful to pull those out. That looks like where this fails, mostly right here at these connecting points. This is pretty horrible kind of design, if you ask me. I mean, something that's so difficult to get to, I would think they would spend a little bit more engineering this part. Such a vulnerable piece. Look at that. That is the bottom of that wire pipe. The O-ring is just, this is the O-ring, it's just disintegrated. So I was just staring at this water pump, and it looks like one of the bolts here, like it may not be enough clearance without moving this idle or tension, or this tensioner pulley, which isn't a big deal, it's just this one bolt, but it's kind of a pain. Like, this really doesn't look like it's enough clearance to get that out. So I think I want to remove the water pump now, get that out of the way. Ordered another one. Then the next thing I'll do is tackle the back of the engine, remove that crossover pipe in the back. Then I'm just waiting for parts, and I'll double check and look through, make sure there isn't anything that I want to replace while I'm already in here. I don't know if I want to deal with this nest of coolant hoses and pipes over here, but the main thing is water pump, wire pipe, and that crossover pipe in the back, and all the other associated hoses and vacuum lines, just because it's underneath the intake manifold. So some of these other things, if I needed to come back and do something, shouldn't be as involved. And also want to clean up this engine bay tube a bit while I have some of the stuff open. So a couple things I want to do. But yeah, I think we're gonna pull this water pump off next. So we have our water pump. Which may or may not have been leaking. And then there is this piece that we have to replace as well. This water pump connector. Alright, so that came off. I want to be careful because this O-ring, so try to be careful pulling this O-ring out. You see the little plastic pieces of gasket. I bought a replacement one of these. I ordered a replacement O-ring. All right. The interesting thing is how low this this motor really sits. This car does handle really nicely. I mean, it's a pretty nice platform. I really like the way it handles and performs. And I can kind of see why. If you look how low the majority of this motor kind of sits, you know, almost kind of toward the front axle line. This thing sits pretty low, this motor. But all right, we're making good progress. We got a lot of cleaning up to do, making sure all the gasket surfaces are clean. Let's see, over here where we pulled the water pump out, the gaskets are still in place, it looks like. Yeah. So water pump doesn't look like it's in bad shape, but you know, I'll play around with it while we're in here. All right, one more thing to remove, and then we're just waiting for parts. One thing I did to make my life a little easier getting to that crossover pipe in the back, so I went down to my local Harbor Freight to get this little micro kind of ratchet set, because I already know that the clearance in the back of that engine compartment is super tight, so I went and grabbed this set. Let's see. This little slide. There's this little small ratchet. So this should be pretty nice for us to get back there and remove those bolts. I think those are 30s. So all right. So we have our little micro ratchet set. There we go. add this little extension to give me a little bit more leverage. So this little tool came in handy. You really need like a little micro ratchet that also has a little articulation to it in the head. This can bend 90 degrees, but I only needed like a 45. Let's see. Now this is where one of those those 90-degree screwing sets will come in handy. That's a long bolt, goodness gracious. So I'm pulling out all the stops here. Let's see if I can't use this little tool to make my life a little easier. Did really just want to show how difficult it is to reach these bolts back here. So I think, see if that's gonna still give enough light. So if you can see that little, this bolt here, I had to really be careful loosening that up. So now this back crossover pipe is loose on that side, but it's extremely difficult to get to. Alright, so I've gotten 3 of the 4 bolts removed for this crossover pipe, but this whole wiring loom contraption is just in the way. So what I'm doing is it's zip tied in a couple spots, so I'm gonna disconnect everywhere where it's zip tied, see if I can't get this plastic piece removed, because I just need more room back here to get that other bolt. And if I'm having so much trouble removing that connector, I'm gonna have a lot of trouble installing it and torquing this thing down properly. So what I'm gonna do is cut this little that's one. Remove that. And so that's giving me, should give me some more room to remove this plastic piece. This little clamshell. So we'll do that and see if that gives us some more room. I'll make sure I don't lose that connector. Looks super important. Remove this disconnect from this hard line here, and also from that crossover pipe, just to give myself some more room. You see, it's already disconnected from that side. I just need to give myself some more room. I had to remove this clamshell plastic piece, this thing that was holding that wiring loom, and so I need to pull this hose from the crossover pipe, and it should give me some much needed room to work with. And that was an ordeal, pulling this down and getting it loose. And I dropped the bolt. So let's see. Thing that was giving us so much trouble. And the steel got a little. Make sure I'm using a steady hand to do this. You can see all along the seam. I mean, what world kind of design is this? I mean, even the way this mounts to the back of the engine. I mean, if Jaguar or Ford didn't expect people to be able to access it, they should have made this out of some aluminum or something. And that's exactly the replacement part I purchased, was an aluminum piece. Alright, so now we're just waiting for parts, but it's a lot of work to even removing that back piece.